They laughed at the quiet new nurse on a U.S. Navy base. She kept her head down, spoke very little, and never reacted to the jokes. No one knew who she really was, or what she had done before arriving there. But one sudden emergency changed everything. When a Navy helicopter landed without warning and demanded their SEAL medic, silence fell across the base. In that moment, the truth came out. Like, share, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now, let's get started. That's at U.S. Navy base on the California coast. The arrival of the new nurse barely caused a stare except for the quiet jokes that followed her wherever she went. Lieutenant Emma Carter was different from the others. She spoke only when necessary, avoided the break room chatter, and never reacted to sarcasm. Among seasoned medics and loud corpsmen, her silence stood out. Some assumed she lacked confidence. Others believed she was inexperienced, pushed into a military posting she couldn't handle. Emma heard the whispers, but she kept her eyes forward, completing every task with calm precision. During morning rounds, the mocking grew more casual. A few medics joked that she looked more like a civilian nurse than someone fit for military base. Others laughed when she declined after-hours hangouts, calling her antisocial. Emma never defended herself. She checked vitals, updated charts, and treated patients with quiet focus. Her record was flawless, but no one paid attention to that. In a place where loud confidence often earned respect, her restraint was mistaken for weakness. The base moved fast, proud and noisy, while Emma seemed to move at her own steady pace. By early afternoon, the base was running routine training drills. The sun hung low, casting sharp shadows across the concrete runway. Emma was inside the medical unit, restocking supplies and reviewing protocols. Outside, laughter echoed as drills wrapped up without incident. Then, without warning, the distant sound of rotor blades cut through the air. At first, no one reacted. Helicopters were common on base, but this one was different, faster, louder, and coming in hot. Conversations stopped. Heads turned toward the sky. The helicopter descended rapidly, sand and dust exploding outward as it touched down near the medical wing. Sirens followed. A high-ranking Navy commander jumped out before the blades had fully slowed. His face was tight with urgency. "I need a SEAL medic right now," he shouted, his voice carrying across the stunned base. Confusion spread instantly. People looked at one another, unsure who he meant. This wasn't a training exercise. This was real, and it was serious. The commander stepped inside the medical unit, scanning faces until his eyes locked onto Emma. The room fell silent. "Lieutenant Carter," he said sharply, "you're up. Gear now." Shock rippled through the staff. The same people who mocked her earlier stared, frozen. Emma didn't hesitate. She grabbed her medical bag with practiced speed, her expression focused, unreadable, as she followed the commander toward the waiting helicopter. The base watched in disbelief, realizing, too late, that they had never truly known who the quiet nurse was. The helicopter lifted off with a violent shake, the roar of the engines swallowing every other sound. Inside, Emma secured her harness and opened her medical kit with steady hands. Across from her sat two armed SEALs, their faces tense, eyes locked on her movements. No one questioned her presence now. The commander briefed her quickly. An elite operator had collapsed during a classified coastal mission. Severe trauma, internal bleeding suspected. Time was running out. Emma listened without interrupting, mentally preparing for every possible complication as the aircraft raced toward the extraction point. When they landed, chaos greeted them. Floodlights cut through the darkness as a wounded SEAL was rushed toward her on a stretcher. Blood soaked his uniform, his breathing shallow and uneven. Emma took control instantly. Her voice, calm and firm, cut through the panic. She assessed injuries, stabilized airways, and began emergency procedures without hesitation. Every move was precise, practiced, and confident. The surrounding soldiers watched closely, realizing this wasn't routine medical training. This was battlefield experience, refined under real fire. As the helicopter lifted off again, turbulence rocked the cabin. Emma worked through it, adapting smoothly, her focus unbreakable. She administered fluids, monitored vitals, and performed critical interventions. One of the SEALs beside her whispered, "She's done this before." It wasn't a question. The truth was clear in the way she moved. Controlled, fearless, efficient. The wounded operator's condition slowly stabilized, his breathing improving. As the minutes passed, against impossible odds, Emma was pulling him back from the edge. By the time they touched down at the base hospital, the crisis had passed. The SEAL was rushed into surgery, alive and breathing steadily. Emma stepped back, removing her gloves, exhaustion finally showing on her face. Doctors and officers stared at her with open respect. A senior officer quietly confirmed what few had known. Nima Carter was a former Navy SEAL combat medic, reassigned after a mission so classified it never appeared in records. Her silence had been policy, not insecurity. Later that night, Emma walked across the base alone. The same corridors, that once echoed with jokes, were now quiet. Medics nodded as she passed. Some offered brief salutes. No one spoke, but the message was clear. The quiet nurse had earned something far stronger than approval. She had earned trust. And on that base, among those who truly understood sacrifice, that respect would never be questioned again.